Well, good morning, almost afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'd like to welcome everybody to our 2025 State of the City Luncheon. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jody Hawkins. I'm the Communications, Marketing, and Recreation Manager here at the city. It's my team that puts together these types of events, all the events for the city, and we definitely could not do that without our incredible leadership from the city, also our wonderful staff, and generous sponsors, who we have several with us today. Thank you. Our signature sponsors, JL Remodeling and Mill Creek Sports. Our silver sponsors, Chris Jones from State Farm Insurance, Community Transit, Nothing But Cakes, Starbucks, Town and Country Markets, and our bronze sponsor, Nancy's Noah's Ark. And a special thanks today to Brooklyn Brothers Pizza for partnering with us to provide such delicious food for today's event, and for the folks that let us use this beautiful forum for this meeting today. One last thing before I introduce our next guest. You'll notice a swag bag or some swag bags that we have at the back. We would love everyone to grab one before they go. They have some special items inside for you to take with you. And there's also a flyer for our 2025 annual performance survey, which I would be very impressed if I got everyone here to to fill that out before the end of the day today. That would be amazing. It's all online and it's really easy. It just takes a few minutes. It's about 12 questions. So we'd appreciate that. All right, well, we're going to get started. I'd like to introduce our Deputy City Manager, Laurel Brock, who's going to take it from here.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So before we hear about the state of our beautiful city, I'd like to welcome a few special guests that are here with us today. So we have Senator John Lovick over here. We have... I thought I saw Representative Brandy Donahue. We have Snohomish County Councilmember Jared Mead. And then we have City Council members John Steckler, Sean Paddock, Melissa Duque. Yeah. We have Mill Creek Chamber Director Jeff Ritter. And then we have staff from the Congresswoman Susan Delbenny's office. Shelby's with us today. And then finally, Mill Creek City Manager Martin Yamamoto, who I'd like to invite to say a few words.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. First, I want to start off is when I come to these events, it always reminds me of when I see all these people attending these meetings. It just reminds me of the contributions that have been made to the success of this city. It kind of reminds me of the powerful ongoing collaboration that's taken place for the last few years across the city, and that means not just our council members in the collaboration with staff, also the legislators that have supported us financially and from an advisement standpoint as well. We have a lot of community members that have contributed to the success of this city as well, including volunteers who put in numerous amount of hours in aligning themselves with the city to, for example, do Earth Day cleanup and adopt a street and so forth. So it really takes a team, a huge team to kind of move mountains, and I think you'll start to see this as we go forward as the mayor and the mayor pro tem start speaking about our long-term projects and kind of where we're going as a city. It is my privilege to introduce two individuals who have exemplified vision and dedication to the city. First, Mayor Brian Holtzclaw. This year's State of the City is especially significant as it marks the mayor's final address over his 12-year tenure. I've had the opportunity to work with the mayor for almost 1/3 of his tenure. Time really flies, but it's been an honor to work with him. along with council. Over this time, I have experienced his steadfast advocacy for the city, leading with his integrity, his wisdom, and his profound commitment to the city of Mill Creek. He has a focus on growth, stability, and the ultimate concerns over the future of this city. So it's been an honor to work with him. But he has still 7 months to go, so.
Make it work. How many days?
So I'm watching his sick leave time here. Standing alongside the mayor is our Mayor Pro Tem Stephanie Vignal, who has served with tremendous dedication for over 6 years, I believe, since 2019. Her collaborative leadership and forward-thinking approach has been pivotal in shaping the direction of this city. It's been a pleasure working with her over this time frame and having all those discussions we have, not just during council, but every week when she comes on the office as well. We talk a lot about a lot of things that happen across the city, so she has a pretty in-depth knowledge of kind of what we do on an operational basis as well. She is deeply passionate about the impact of legislation on our community and the importance of effective policing, ensuring the safety of and the well-being of our residents, businesses, and our visitors to the city. So together, these two, alongside with their colleagues on the dais, represent really the heart of Mill Creek's leadership, which is a complete team rooted in the dedicated public services driven by progress and the unwavering commitment to our community. So please welcome me in joining both Mayor Holtzclaw and Mayor Pro Tem Vignal, and Mayor will start the presentation.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction. This is about the city, not about me. I haven't really thought about my final 224 days on the council. But it has been an honor to serve on the council for 12 years with my fellow colleagues, Council Members Steckler and Paddock and Duque, and for the last 5 or so years with Stephanie as our Mayor Pro Tem. It's been a lot of fun. This is going to be somewhat informal. We're going to tag team this a little bit. We're going to use this as an opportunity to update you on what's going on with the city. I think I did this in the same format last year. I'm going to try not to be as long-winded as I was last year. But I'd like to focus first on a few of our accomplishments, of where the city's at, talk about what I see as the main challenge, and then talk about what I see as the opportunities for the city moving forward. There's 6 achievements or accomplishments that I'd like to highlight, and then Stephanie's going to address a couple more. The first is I think we have a level of stability in the city that we haven't had in probably the last decade. I would say my first 8 years or so on the council were, shall we say, a bit tumultuous. It was more reactive government than it was being proactive, responding to this crisis or that crisis, whether it was an issue with the city manager or dealing with the COVID pandemic and issues like that. But I think we've seen in the last 4 years a level of stability, and that's in large part credited to our city manager and the stability he is providing to us and his team that he's assembled. I think the benefit for us as a council and as a city when we have that stability is we're not focusing on the tangential issues. We're actually focusing on what we need to accomplish to keep the city moving forward. And hopefully that will be able to continue and we can continue that stability. I always joke when I go to the mayor's meetings because Mayor Marine from Mukilteo usually says, "Brian, I haven't seen you guys in the papers lately." It's like, good. I'll keep Mukilteo and Linwood in the papers, keep Mill Creek out. That's a good thing. That's not in the script. The second thing I'd like to highlight is I think the city financially continues to be in a good short-term financial position. Since I've been on the council for the last 12 years, and I think Director Todd would say going back when he was on council, we've always been able to maintain a general fund reserve balance of $6-ish million, which is well above what our financial policies call for the minimum balance. But we've managed to maintain that. I'm not sure how, but our revenues continue to come in enough that they exceed our expenses. But the projections are that's not always going to continue. And I'll get to that in a minute. I think the other thing I'd like to highlight with the financial position is, and this is in large part due to our finance director. I know she's here somewhere. There she is. And our city manager and deputy city manager. But we've had clean audits. What you want in an audit from the state auditor is no findings. Findings are bad. Management recommendations are kind of like the slap on the hand saying, do this a little better, but it doesn't rise to the level of finding. And we've had, for the most part, clean audits for since 2019, I believe now. And so that's always a positive thing. The third I'd like to focus on is the strategic plan that we put together in 2023 and 2024. I think that was a big achievement for the city. During my early years on the council, I think the council was sporadic in having a council retreat annually where we take a step back from the day-to-day and actually look forward a few years, whether it be the coming year or 3 to 5 years out. Stephanie and I have tried to implement since 2021, starting the year with an annual retreat. So we're not just starting the year without a roadmap or a set of goals of what we want to accomplish. I hope that's something that will continue. We've done it for 4 years, I think, in a row, and it's been very helpful. I think it helps us align with staff and all get on the same page and set a vision going forward. But then we did something that I don't think we'd done in the history of the city. We took a step back and looked out farther. We looked out to 2040 to come up with a strategic vision, what we call Vision 2040. And through that process, we identified 4 guiding principles. 1 is financial health and economic vitality. 2 is safe and clean. The 3rd is engaged and connected with the community. And the 4th is well-maintained outdoors, public space, and infrastructure. And I think those guiding principles are important because it provides a framework when we're considering an issue of how does it fit in with our guiding principles. Is that something we should be dedicating the public funds to, or is it something that would be nice, but it's not really consistent with our guiding principles? And I hope that will continue going forward, that we use that as a living document to really shape the discussions on council and within the city when we're considering whether it's DRCC or, the issue that came to my mind was, I think early on my time on the council, the issue came up with whether we should put bike lanes on Village Green Drive. And at the time, we ultimately decided not to do that, but at the time, we had no guiding framework for that. And now we have a framework to say, how would that fit in with our guiding principles? I don't know where the council would come out, but that's just an example of how that can be utilized going forward. The fourth thing is the comprehensive plan. One of our big undertakings in the last year was to complete the 10-year update to our comprehensive plan required under the State Growth Management Act. So every 10 years, the State Office of Financial Management issues new population projections that the counties and cities have to then plan for to make sure our comprehensive plan and zoning has enough capacity, on paper at least, to meet the population projection. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but on paper we have to be able to plan for it. This was a big undertaking by a lot of people. The council had the smallest part in this. There's a lot of effort by staff, the outside consultants, and in particular the Planning Commission. Volunteers on the Planning Commission who vetted this at length before they brought it to us. And we had some good discussions at the council with the Planning Commission on that. Ultimately, it led to us putting most of our projected growth into what we're calling now South Town Center, extending the zoning for this area south down to the south side of QFC, south of 164th. And we did that for 2 reasons. One, it's an opportunity, I'll get to this in a minute, to promote some economic development in the city. But one thing we heard loud and clear from the residents was protect the single-family neighborhoods. And this was a way to focus the growth where we have the transit in place now with the green line coming down 527 and the orange line on 164th to hopefully focus that growth in that area while at the same time protecting our single-family neighborhoods. The fifth thing is community engagement. This has been something that I think has changed pretty dramatically since I started on council. I don't want to say it was an afterthought early on, but we weren't more as actively engaged in getting out to the community as we are now. And that's something that we've been actively trying to do over the last few years and are actively going to continue trying to do. So we've done that through a number of things. Well, first, check out the new website. Jody spent where's she one? There she is. We just launched our new website a couple weeks ago. Jump online, check it out. It's a big improvement over what we had. It's far more interactive. So it's a great resource for residents to find out what's going on in the city and what information you need about the city. We started during COVID doing our, quarterly, 4 or 5 times a year city chats. They started online and now we go around the city. We've gone to the high school, to the senior center, to MCCA, to Coger up the street here. We're trying to get out to the community. You know, the attendance isn't always great, but we're going to keep trying to connect with you guys. You know, I like to say, tell us what we're doing right so we don't stop doing it, in addition to telling us what we're doing wrong or what we're not doing. But community engagement is going to be all the more important with some of the opportunities that I'll get to in a minute, because we really need to hear from the community. The sixth thing I'd like to highlight is the implementation of the ARPA dollars. We got about $5.8 million from the federal government through the federal program coming out of the COVID pandemic. And we were trying to deploy that money at the same time we're developing the strategic plan, which I think was helpful because it allowed us to look at how to deploy those funds in the context of the guiding principles that we were developing and ended up coming up with. So just to highlight a few of the things that we've used those dollars for, we used about $500,000 to buy a new street sweeper, much bigger, more efficient street sweeper so we can keep the streets cleaner. We used it for the website. We're using it to undertake a fee study. The fee study is looking at all the fees that we don't charge that we should be charging for, and it looks at fees that we're charging where we're not covering our costs to provide those services. So hopefully we'll have that finalized before the end of the year so we can update our fee schedule, which will help with the financial side of things. And we're also using some of the funds to directed towards the sub-area, the Southtown Center sub-area, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie to talk about public safety and the legislative. Are you going to stay down there, or you got the mic? I wasn't sure what you were going to do.
Thank you, everyone. I am here today to talk to you a little bit about the work that our legislative committee is doing, and also a little bit about our police department and our presence for the police department as well. So thank you for all of you for coming out today. We really appreciate it. And I want to start off with one of the things that I was really passionate about when I first got on the council was actually starting a legislative committee and making sure that we were advocating with our representatives in Olympia and building those relationships and letting them know where we were standing on things so that they could advocate for us as well. And so in 2023, the city created our legislative committee, which consists of Councilmember Duque, Councilmember Allison, who isn't here, and myself. What we do is we work in collaboration with our city staff and make sure that we come up with the things that we are needing, what's going on in the city, and where we could advocate for the things that we need. And then we bring bring that back to the council and get their approval so that it gives us a set of talking points and a set of things that we need to be making sure we're covering when we meet with all of our representatives, so they know where we stand and they know what we need, because they can't get us the things we need if they don't know what we're dealing with. And with that in mind, I also want to give a shout out again to Senator Lovick for the regional training centers for our police officers, because that was a really big thing for us to be able to move the training along for our police officers so that we could stay fully staffed and get them trained faster, and also so that it would be closer to home so that we can have a more diverse population that is able to go and get trained while still staying home. And that way we can have more people that represent our community and have a sense of belonging with us as they're getting trained. And it really helps to move that along. So thank you, Senator Lovick, for all that hard work that you did. I'd also like to point out this year, one of the things that was dear to our heart for the city perspective was condominium reform. Because as we work on talking about the work that we want to do in the sub-area with the comprehensive plan, one of the things we kept coming back to is that we need avenues for home ownership. And it's really hard for people to go straight into a home. So we need to open up more avenues for condominiums to be able to be built. So we took time to support reform that did pass this year that in turn bolster home ownership opportunities through incentivizing condo construction, which passed, and that was House Bill 1403. And so that was a really important bill for us as a city and also for our residents so that we can work on building more condos and get people to start on that avenue towards home ownership so they can start building equity into their homes. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about the police department and the police presence. We, from time to time, we keep hearing from all of you that you are concerned about speeding in the city and seeing your police officers and having that presence. Well, I'm happy to tell you that we have 29 positions in the police department. That includes 23 commissioned officers, and that includes the police chief, 6 non-commissioned officers, and that includes a deputy director of public safety officer, Larissa, 4 records, and evidence techs as well. So one of the things that we were able to do with getting our police staff, right now we only have 1 vacancy left, and that should be filled by the end of June, or be fully staffed by the end of June. We were able to actually increase officer presence by filling the staffing and patrol section and school resource officer position for both Jackson High School and Heatherwood Middle School. And this was something that was really important. Our residents were telling us they wanted to make sure that we had that officer that was the resource officer at Heatherwood Middle School as well as Jackson High School, because it made the parents feel safer, and it's something that they've been advocating for. So we're very happy that we were able to do that. Also, in 2024, we fully staffed our investigations unit, and this has allowed detectives the time necessary to complete thorough follow-up, resulting in higher solvability and charging rates. Also, you will have noticed that we have had great success with having more officers out on the streets, and they are actually policing people that are speeding, and with that, the speeding tickets have went up, which does show that they have been out there doing their job. And I don't know about you, but I see them out there every day when I'm taking my daughter to school. I see them driving around on those main corridors and making everybody slow down, and this is resulting in people going slower, and that is something that's really important to the safety of the city. Also, I would like to highlight that we did open up a new substation this year over in the farm, and it is staffed on Tuesday and Thursday from 12 to 3, and this adds another area where people can come in and have contact with our officers and just have those conversations, and makes them more accessible. Finally, I just want to add that, just so everyone knows, that unfortunately, a medical condition has halted our canine operations. Fortunate that Recovery Canine Hondo's return to full duty has happened along with him and Corporal Lerma completing certification in the detection of narcotics program. With that, that concludes my update on the police presence, and so I can turn it back over to the mayor if he would like to point out anything else and discuss our challenges now. The fun part's over.
Well, no, we're going to get to the fun part, but now to talk about what I see as a challenge. And I guess fortunately this is going to be an issue that my colleagues are going to get to deal with primarily next year with the budget. It's not going to be something I will be needing to deal with as much in the next 224 days. But the biggest challenge I see for the city is the long-term financial stability. For as long as I've been on council, when we do the budget, we always have the projections of the general fund reserved. And it always showed 6 or 7 years you hit the proverbial cliff. That cliff has never come. The next budget, you get the same graph. It's 6, 7 years down the road. The cliff is getting closer. The latest budget we've adopted projects that our expenses are going to exceed our revenues sometime in 27, a little over 2 years from now. That could change, could be sooner, could be later. But the fact that it's not as far out in the projection as it has been for some time causes some concern. We had a spirited discussion during the budget on how to deal with our expenses. A couple facts that I think are important to keep in mind. For the most part, we have no general fund supported debt in the city. We have a surface water bond that's funded by the surface water rates we all pay, but we have no debt that we rely on the general fund to support. We have no utility tax. We are unusual for cities in not just the region, but in the state. I would say we had a recent council meeting, we had some information on the utility taxes. And I think it's something like 75% of the cities rely on a utility tax to some extent to fund their general fund. The utility tax has been the third rail of politics, so to speak, in our city. I'm not advocating for it, but I think it's something that has to be considered, whether it's for a special project or to help put the city. Oh, what did I say? And the third thing is, our city government has not grown significantly. Prior to COVID, we were a little over 62 FTEs. That was in 17, 18. In the aftermath of COVID, due to turnover and various funding issues, we were down to a little over 54 FTEs. We're currently funded, I'm not sure if there might be a position or two that is not yet filled, but in our current budget, we're at 67 FTEs. So we haven't grown the city significantly, but the demands and expectations, I would say, of the residents continues to grow. And related to this is the challenge of community engagement. It was interesting during the budget process when we were contemplating a 1% increase in property taxes, and it's important to remember what that means. So when the voters approved the fire annexation, we reduced our city levy by the same amount that it would have cost us to pay the fire district when we were contracting for service. So our annual property tax collections are 4.2 million or so. So that means a 1% increase in property taxes. That means the council can collect $42,000 more citywide, distributed amongst the 9,000 or so pieces of property. When we were debating how to handle the property taxes for the city, I think we had 2 people comment during that process, both of whom, thank you, are in attendance, I think, here today. I think Councilmember Mead would appreciate having that many people come and testify. He knows when people are upset about property taxes, they know where to go and who to go talk to. But it's an important discussion we're going to need to have. What do the residents want to have for the level of service? How do we deal with that? Because if we need to have more staff to mow the lawns in the park, to keep the roads clean, to provide police protection. That comes with a cost. So, from my perspective, this is just, as we like to say, I'm just one of seven. But I think that you can't cut your way out of this. The expenses are continuing to increase. So I'm hoping we can get the community really engaged in the discussion, because we need to hear from you. We need to hear what you want, what you don't want, because that affects the decisions that they will make next year on the budget. So I would highlight that as the engaged community. That's why we're so proactive on that, is we're trying to find every way we can to get you guys involved in the decisions that we have to make. We are your representatives. So we need to hear from those who we represent so we can make informed decisions. I didn't know, is there any challenges you wanted to highlight? You can take a pass.
No, I think that's the main challenge that we are dealing with.
Okay, I'll end on a positive note. The opportunities I see for the city. And I'm glad that we're here today for this. I think back, I've been here for 22 years. I haven't been here as long as Mr. Wright, Mr. Todd, Mr. Lovick, Mr. Steckler. But 5 years ago, the city leaders were discussing what their vision was for the city 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Their vision was a town center, taking the city from a glorified homeowners association built around the country club to becoming a city. And their vision was to create a town center, which they did. It took a little longer than was hoped, but it finally happened. I think we're at a similar point with Mill Creek for shaping what we want the city to be in 10, 20, 30 years. And I think there's three important ways we can do that. One is to look at annexation. Not saying if there's any reporters in the room or listening or going to listen to the tape, no decisions have been made of whether we're going to annex, but we need to at least look at that. So we are in the process of doing a financial study. It's basically doing the due diligence on the basic numbers. Would annexation, whether it's west, south, or east, we can't go north. I'm not going to start an annexation process with it. We're not going to annex Everett. But we need to at least look at the numbers to see if it pencils. Would annexing any portion of our urban growth area that's outside of the city limits be revenue positive? Would the property taxes and sales taxes exceed our cost to provide the services? So we're hopefully going to have that report in the coming months so we can then have a discussion. Does it make sense to take the next step? And that next step, if it does pencil at least rudimentarily, why would we annex? Is it purely a financial decision to help the long-term financial stability? Is there a bigger vision we have for the city? Do we want to go west to capture light rail if it gets here by 2041 as is currently planned? But those are, I think, some of the discussions that we're going to need to have. And again, I reiterate, we have made no decisions on annexation, but we are looking at it, and I think it's prudent of the council to continue considering it. The second is the DRCC property up the street. When we talk about being responsible stewards of the public dollars, the city's invested somewhere around, I think it's $8.4 million in that property over the last 15 years. From a private perspective, the return on investment of that investment has not been very high. We're currently utilizing it for storing materials for our public works department, because that's another issue we have to deal with, is finding a public works facility. But we've gone in fits and starts. We get focused on it, and then we see a squirrel over here, and then we see a rabbit over there. But we're trying to move that forward. And I think the other thing we struggle with is we have too many damn ideas. It originally started to be an opportunity for fields. As admirable as that is, I just don't think that's practical. We came to the conclusion, given the topography and expenses, it just doesn't make sense to develop fields there. But could it be a community facility of some sort? Could it be a new city hall? Could it be a public works facility? Could it be a community facility that incorporates an organization like the Boys and Girls Club or something similar to that? I think that's our current struggle is we have so many ideas we can't get focused and gelled around one, but I think that provides a great opportunity for the city to create a community asset that could be here for decades. So we're going to be looking at some options, I think, later this year. Unfortunately, this was one of the things that I decided to run for a third term, hoping we'd be closer to finalizing a master plan than we are, but that might mean I have to come and participate in audience communication a few Tuesday nights next year. And the last one I'd like to touch on is the sub area. I think that's a big opportunity. I think that was a helpful process for the council as we decided what to do with and how to plan for the growth in the city and deciding to locate it down there. We had a developer come in that was involved in some of the downtown development in the cities of Woodinville and Kenmore and Bothell present to the council, and we even took tours of some of it. I think for elected officials, it's hard to understand land use. I dealt with it daily in my day job for 33 years, but it's hard to talk about it on paper without seeing what it really means. And from my experience, most of the time when you see what you think is going to be bad when you read about it on paper, when you experience and see it, it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. So I mean, we're not talking 8-10 stories, but there's some level of development down there that I think could provide a great opportunity for creating a new sense of place that's tied to the light rail investment we've made as a region with the bus rapid transit lines. And it could provide a place where we can attract some businesses that we've had, frankly, challenges doing. I mean, UW bookstore space is now, we have an athletic theme going between the hot yoga across the street from the gymnastics across the street from the swim club, which is great. But I think we have an opportunity with the Southtown Center to really create another sense of place. I encourage the community to go out to places like Wooden Creek, downtown Bothell, downtown Kenmore, the Juanita area where there's 4 or 5 stories over retail, and you get a lot of new restaurants, whether it be wineries, breweries. You can really create a sense of place that will bring people to the city to patronize the existing businesses. So I think to me, that's the next town center, is the Southtown Center. What could that be 20, 30 years down the road? So any opportunities you wanted to highlight that I haven't covered? So like I said, this is going to be pretty informal. We're open to questions. Before I close, I guess I'd summarize by saying, as Timbuk 3 would say, future's so bright, you got to wear shades. And with that, we're open to any questions. Senator Lovett.
Hold on. We've got the microphone so that you can.
Mayor, it's not a, wow. Give a politician a microphone and he will amplify. No pun intended. Mayor, I just want to tell you this. I've lived here for 33 years now. My wife and I are so pleased to be here. This is not a question. I just want to thank you for your service and for your leadership. Many times I've seen you, whether it's at City Hall or anywhere, you're just a very, very kind gentleman. And kindness is something that we need, and I really appreciate the kindness you brought to this city. So thank you for your service, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. Other questions? Am I supposed to make a pitch for the annual So one of the things that I didn't mention in our community engagement is we do the annual, what do we call it? The annual performance survey. Thank you. And we're using that we keep it consistent with the questions so that we can kind of gauge how we're doing, at least from a community sentiment perspective. So in your grab bag will be this little handout with a QR code. It's not a terribly long questionnaire, but please do fill it out because we take that into serious consideration and take it very seriously and use it as a way to gauge how the city and the council are doing. So please complete that and fill it out. And I think there's going to be some grab bags, and you may be able to fill the grab bags with some pizza. No other questions? I told you we were going to be briefer than I was last year. If there's no other questions, thank you for coming out. There's plenty of food left. Please enjoy some pizza, and they will see you next year.